Jesus closes the opening section of the Sermon on the Mount by telling the people they need to be more righteous. His actual words translate, "For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Years ago, I heard theologian and futurist Leonard Sweet talk about the idea of a righteousness that exceeds the scribes and Pharisees. He suggested there are two ways to understand what makes something more righteous. The first way to do more is to do the same thing, but do it better. The second way to do more involves doing something different. The first kind of more is like going from driving a covered wagon to a car. Both get you where you want to go by traveling along the earth, but one does it in a much faster and more comfortable way. More as different is traveling by plane. Not because it's even faster yet, but because there's no longer any natural obstacles in the way. Going through the air as opposed to on the ground is a fundamentally different form of travel. Another way to think about the two kinds of more involves financial transactions. Here, the first kind of more is like moving from coins to paper money. In either case, you have to carry enough currency to pay for whatever it is you are hoping to buy, but paper is better because it weighs less and takes up less overall space. More is different would be a debit card, or even better, a debit card connected to Apple Pay. Here, you are not having to worry about having the right amount on hand. Instead, you only need to make sure there's money there in your account. With Apple Pay, you even get to skip carrying the debit card. So, how do we apply these two kinds of more to faith? I'm going to guess that most of you hear Jesus' words and automatically think of more as better. After all, that is how churches typically teach them. Moreover, our culture tends to program us to respond that way. After all, we live in a world where a spirit of power pervades. But this is the way of the Beatitudes and checklist obedience. It's about ritually clean hands that ignore impure hearts. More as better rejects a poverty of spirit as it places how right you are on display. In other words, more as better is the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. Doing more than the scribes and Pharisees is the path to more hypocrisy, not to the kingdom of heaven. More as different, on the other hand, is what Jesus lays out in the Beatitudes as I unpack them. That is the point of this series on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. That is why the Beatitudes are not an introduction to the sermon, but the foundation. This is the kind of more righteous that makes those who embody Jesus' teaching the salt of the earth and the light of the world. It is the kind of righteousness that truly fulfills the heart of the law. This is the more righteous that guides us as we live by soul in a spirit of love. So hear again those words of Jesus, and then use the links in the show notes to revisit the different perspectives Jesus invites us to embrace. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.